5. A former St. Louis congressional candidate is accused of taking advantage of a grieving mother after her son committed suicide.
That mother contacted News 4 asking us to investigate. As Chris Negus began checking into her claims, more questions about the former candidate came up.
On air, Paul Berry talks politics.
Welcome to another edition of Show Me Politics with Paul Berry III.
Online, the former Missouri congressional candidate posts pictures of himself with well-known people, and he boasts about multi-million-dollar deals he's got in the works. Deshaun Dingle is not a fan.
He's a con man and a swindler.
Dingle says she met Berry on the way to the Republican National Convention, and at first they connected over similar political views.
He was very charismatic.
She says they became friends, and during that friendship, Berry would remind her of his importance.
He said that he owned a $600,000 building and studio.
Months after meeting Berry, Dingle's life was turned upside down. In February, her son Brendan committed suicide. Through her grief, she wanted to create a legacy for Brendan. Dingle says Berry thought up lots of ideas, including ways to prevent a similar tragedy for other families.
He was going to put a whole mental health series into his show.
She says Berry offered to have her on his program and run public service announcements for suicide awareness. She says Berry offered to tape a show at Truman State where several members of the same fraternity committed suicide last year.
Have you ever seen a clip of that happening?
Nothing.
Before any of it could happen, Dingle says Berry needed money, so she agreed to help him.
This is our loan agreement typed by Paul Berry. You won't even notice the money missing. We'll have it right back. We're going to get your PSAs, on Show Me Politics.
The notarized agreement for $15,000 was clear. The money would be paid back in increments on April 15th, May 15th, with the balance due on June 15th.
Has Paul Berry paid back any of this loan?
No, not a nickel.
Zero.
Dingle isn't the only one fighting with Berry over money.
Paul Berry was the worst tenant I've ever had in 30 years of renting out places.
Reese Forbes says he evicted Berry from his Maryland Heights rental home for chronically failing to pay rent. A 2016 court judgment reveals Berry owes Forbes $11 grand. He says Berry always offered an excuse.
He'll be friendly and lie straight to your face. I don't want to be around the guy.
Berry's online persona is far different. On July 14th, he posted his production, Nightlife with Paul Berry, has been offered an $8 million revolving line of credit. In June, he posted, State of Georgia offered $7.5 million to move Nightlife to Atlanta. These posts make it appear like money is rolling in. Dingle says Berry talked about his show going national, making her wonder why he needed her money. She no longer believes anything Berry says.
He preyed upon my grief for his own political gain and ambitions. That is who Paul Berry is.
After missing his payment obligation deadlines, Dingle called Berry on July 5th. Berry praised Dingle during the call.
A lot of what I'm doing now would have never happened had you not helped me.
He also acknowledged owing Dingle money.
So you're saying the first payment that you would be able to make is when?
The 17th, and I can do $6,000 on that day, and I'll do the balance on the 31st.
Dingle says Berry never made good on that promise, and that the only money she ever got back came from a disputed American Express charge. Money paid directly to Sinclair Broadcasting, the company Berry paid to run his show. She says she still owed thousands.
I just pray for the sake of anyone listening or anyone who sees this, that they don't let that happen. Don't let it happen to you. I'm sorry, I just need a couple seconds to...
Instead of paying Dingle, Berry has filed a complaint against her. He's asking the Illinois Attorney General to investigate Dingle, claiming she loaned him money she raised in her son's name without properly registering a charity with the AG's office. Dingle says she's done nothing wrong. As for Berry's newfound success, I called the state of Georgia Department of Economic Development and asked about the $7.5 million supposedly offered to Berry. The agency responded, Georgia doesn't offer any advance payment to anyone. they offer tax credits. They added, "We have not received any sort of application from Mr. Berry, and Georgia has not agreed to pay Mr. Berry any monies to come film in Georgia and never will." We have offered Berry numerous opportunities to sit down and talk about these allegations. Berry agreed to an interview on Monday of last week, but canceled that morning, telling a producer he refused to speak with me. We then emailed Berry several questions. He fired back with a response threatening litigation, then promised to have answers by Thursday of last week. We have received no response, and that is the last time that we have heard from Berry. As for Dingell, she says she's now working on her own lawsuit against Berry. Chris Negus, News 4.